Okay, let's get started. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar series, From Shop Talk to Desktop. As many of you probably know, this week was the original week for Shop Talk in Las Vegas. And commercetools has been a strong supporter of the show since its inception about 5 years ago, and we fully support their decision to postpone the event until September in light of this global health crisis. Yet we also know that this is a very busy season for retailers and brands as you make critical decisions on your commerce strategy. We created this webinar series to help you keep your planning on pace. Several of our partners will be joining us over these next few months to showcase our joint solutions for a headless API-based architecture. We really look forward to seeing you all again in person and shaking hands at Shop Talk in September. But in the meantime, we hope you gain some practical knowledge in these webinars and stay safe and healthy. Our webinar today is titled Headless Content and Commerce for Retailers. Our very special guest is Amplience, the commerce experience platform company that can help you create more powerful experiences. You might say they're the head to our headless commerce platform. I'm really excited to introduce our two illustrious speakers, Mr. James Brooke, founder and CEO of Amplience, joining us from London. Hello, James.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very nice, thank you, very good. And Emily Godfrey from Surrey, which James just told me is south of London because I've never actually been there. Hello, Emily, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Very good. And of course, Mr. Matt Alberts, he's the head of our professional services at commercetools based in Durham, North Carolina. How are things in Durham, Matt?
Things are going well here.
Very good, thanks. I'm Margaret Ray. I head up marketing for commercetools in the Americas. I'm actually based in California, so we've got a lot of points on the map covered here. And I'll be back after our session to monitor the Q&A. I want to let you know that this session is being recorded, and we'll get the recording out in about 24 hours after today's session. If you have any questions, you know what to do during the session. Just type them into the Q&A panel, and we'll be back to answer all of those burning questions at the end of the talk. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to James.
Thank you very much. And like you said, welcome everybody. Sorry we couldn't be there in person, but this is the best way to do these things for now. It is absolutely planning season, and I know many of you are thinking about how do we take on the e-commerce infrastructure that we have and do something really innovative and new. And so we're super excited to be here today, along with Matt, to talk about just that. So what have we got lined up for you over the next hour? Well, once we've done a little bit of intro, we'll go through this ourselves in a second. What we're going to do is walk through why headless for retailers, talk really about the innovation imperative. We're going to talk a lot about how retailers need to build a whole solution for managing a headless commerce experience and what sort of problems that solves and where the benefits are. Emily is going to do a fantastic live demo and take you through all of the great integrations we've done with commercetools to really build a complete experience management solution for commerce. We'll do a bit of Q&A at the end. And for those of you that are wondering about the AirPods, well, we'll talk a little bit about how the AirPod Pro competition will pan out at the end. And we'll talk about how the winners are going to be announced. All very exciting stuff. But before we go on, I'm just going to go back up a slide and do a little bit of intro. So I'm James Brooke, CEO and founder of Amplience. We're a 12-year-old business that has been driving a lot of innovation in the whole content space, particularly around API and headless. We'll spend a little bit more time on company introductions in a minute. Matt, do you want to say hello?
Hey everybody, this is Matt Alberts, and as it says there, I'm the head of professional services for commercetools in the Americas. Principally responsible for customer enablement, training, and expert services that run for some of our customers should they elect for those.
Great, thank you, Matt. Great to have you on the call. Emily, could you do a little intro as well, please?
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Godfrey. I'm a senior sales engineer for Amplience. So primarily my role is to help our customers understand how and what the Amplience solution can actually help them do from generating a commerce experience perspective.
Absolutely. And Emily, I think it's fair to say you've been doing this for quite a long time. Back in ATG land, you were putting all this together,
Yes.
sort of in very much the old way the first time around. I know that Matt, you were involved with a whole range of different companies I've worked with in the past. So I think between us, we've got a fantastic range of experience to take everyone through the next hour. So now that we've done our introductions, let's just drop into a little bit of background on the companies themselves. Matt, why don't you introduce commercetools to those of us that are maybe less familiar?
Yeah, certainly. So commercetools founded back in 2006, originally by a group of gentlemen that were implementing Hybris as a system integrator, looking to really solve the challenges that were faced within a traditional monolith architecture. The typical annual budgets to upgrade and maintain software, ultimately leading to no additional functionality into the business. So originally participated in creating the YAS platform for Hybris. Seeing that there wasn't a lot of interest in taking that forward into the Hybris and SAP ecosystem, then took that and created a new platform, which we now call commercetools, which is a headless API-first microservices-based and multi-tenant cloud platform that we sell into the market here over the last 5 to 6 years. And that, just to give everybody a quick picture of that, that is our Berlin office, which is where our main product development center is. Company is headquartered in Munich, and US headquarters are in Durham, North Carolina.
Fabulous. Thank you, Matt. Maybe I can just do a little bit of the same with Amplience. Amplience actually stands for Amplified Experience Concatenated. As I said, we started the business about 12 years ago. Many of us in the company had come out of building very sophisticated e-commerce and global marketing platforms. So some of the biggest brands, while at big system integrators like LPI and Sapient. And we very much thought there must be a better way to do all of this stuff, because frankly, it was painful from a developer perspective and it was hard from a tools perspective. It was difficult to create the kinds of experiences and do that really easily for marketers and merchandisers and anyone else really involved in the content production process. So we started thinking about content anew back in 2008, roughly the same sort of time that commercetools came to be. And we've followed a very similar evolution. We are now 100% microservices, API first, cloud and headless. And we are very much involved with driving a whole range of different experiences off that platform, but very much focused on retail. So retail is very much the focus for the business. Most of our customers are in that sort of retail e-commerce space, and it's very much where we specialize. So what makes us a bit different from other headless CMS platforms is that focus on retail and commerce. And what we talk about with our customers is creating much more powerful experiences that are really more performant, fundamentally richer and more engaging, and experiences that deliver a much more consistent and personalized contextual experience for their customers. So that said, how do we actually work in the ecosystem together with commercetools? Well, much of what we do in API land is work sort of very neatly in a kind of jigsaw way. We plug all those holes in content and media that are required for delivering a complete commerce experience, and work really side by side with commercetools and other APIs from search providers like Algolia, all the way through merchandising and marketing tools that provide other APIs and elements of that overall solution. So Amplience is very much the content end of that, the CMS, the DAM, and all the content delivery and experience management elements. commercetools provides a whole range of very rich functionality through its APIs, everything from product information management all the way through to all the key capabilities you need to manage everything from taking an order through managing that order all the way through the process. Matt's going to talk a little bit more about how all these pieces come together and why they're so important for retail sometime over the next few slides. So Matt, I'm going to hand over to you to talk very much about the challenges, particularly in the innovation sense for these retailers.
Yeah, and I think that for many of us have been working in the industry for a number of years, as many as 20 plus years. I think what we've been finding is that we all are dealing with some of the challenges associated with some of the legacy platforms. So if you take a look and you start thinking about some of the old commerce platforms that we've had in the industry for a long time, I think what you're seeing, and James, if you can go to the next slide, I think what you're seeing is we're really moving into what we like to describe as the third wave of commerce. Right? If we look back to some of the original iterations of commerce platforms, many of us have worked on some of those, starting really in wave one, which talked a lot about traditional on-premise platforms. That was what was available to us. A variety of methods to host and maintain and really update, and really seeing the innovation occur through a joint partnership between the customer, a partner, and the platform vendor. And then we moved into wave two, which was really when the cloud started taking hold. We saw a lot of those legacy vendors really make a shift towards the cloud, or essentially move their on-premise product into a managed hosting situation, and we'll call it a cloud. We refer to it as a fake cloud because it's the same software wrapped up in a new sales contract, right? Instead of paying for a fixed license and 20% maintenance every year, you're now paying for it on an operational expense. And really, where we see things today is we really see things as a third wave of the generation. It's true SaaS APIs. If you look into the industry, commercetools, as many as other vendors like AWS or Google Cloud, are offering similar types of APIs in a consumable fashion, really as Lego pieces into a puzzle to solve the challenges of today's business. And that truly is truly taking advantage of the cloud infrastructure, the true API infrastructure, the SaaS methodology that we were all looking for coming out of kind of our fake cloud generation. Some of the other challenges that we find is that legacy IT can't keep up. If you look at a traditional retailer, or you look at a traditional company, you've got legacy systems in place, or an ERP, a merchandising system, something that's been in place for 5, 10, 20, 30 plus years. And it really fundamentally runs on we'll upgrade it every 5 years. Maybe we'll just customize it and never upgrade it again. So the IT department has really been one of the forces in maintaining that. There's a very mature process associated with maintaining these large applications, and that applies to commerce as well, right? And you see that a lot with the commerce vendors. Of having worked for Oracle, we released one release of Oracle Commerce every year, and that was it. You move into kind of the fake cloud, and then you see more frequent releases. But ultimately, what you're finding is that the IT department really can't keep up with the types of demands that are coming from the company today. The other thing that you now see is that a lot of these platforms were designed for the distinct channels that existed in the market at that time, right? If you look back at a monolith, it was the desktop, and that was it, desktop and laptop. You look towards the fake cloud generation, it was really about the conversion to mobile. So you've got this mobile first selling structure associated with these platforms, and you start talking about front ends that are adaptive and hybrid. But ultimately, it's each one of these platform companies then coming up with a new way and an enhancement to the platform to be able to sell into a new market. And commerce is everywhere, right? None of us know what the next successful channel or touch point or experience is going to be, right? And here's several examples of those, right? There's waves of innovation that go through our industry where everybody's suddenly going to do voice ordering, and here we are a couple of years later, and how many orders are truly placed on an Alexa device? Or Instagram ordering, another good example. And every innovation requires an iteration, right? You can't constantly be waiting for your platform vendor to really provide the capabilities to attach to this next touch point, right? There's also not that the business doesn't necessarily want to make those significant investments in upgrading to the next version and making this available. The business really says, hey, we've got this new touch point. We think this is interesting. How can we just go out there and sample or play with it? How can we do an MVP or POC that really helps us capture whether or not this is something that's interesting or that our customers might like? We get any kind of a demand there, right? So innovation really comes through iteration, right? And you need a platform and a set of building blocks that really allow you to deliver on that type of promise, right? You can't be stuck in these quarterly releases. So the way that we start thinking about this is that at commercetools, we really think about the idea of democratizing commerce technology, right? We need to We recognize that having been in this industry for a long time, that we can't figure out what the next channel is going to be, that we have to stop thinking about channels. We really need to make sure that our customers are able to run the same kind of technology that the leading commerce companies in the world are running, right? And that means any channel, any device, going back to that best of breed ethos around what's right for you as a business, what's right for your people to manage the customer experience and the brand experience effectively. That really means that we need to be headless, right? If you look at those commerce platforms for a long time, you get the strong detractors within marketing that say, the platform might be great, but the content management system is awful, right? So fantastic at throughput, taking orders, managing customers, but visually not very appealing for the business. And ultimately, the way we think about that is really coming back to the industry and saying, multi-tenant SaaS is where it is. We believe that we've got a strong set of technology, and we're also very developer friendly, which is what makes people successful at this iterative approach that everybody's moving to in their business. commercetools as a company is a little bit different than experiences you may have with other companies out there. We are developer led. We're a very technical company. More than 80% of our employees are technical. We're very transparent around our open source components that we might build to help our customers or that partners may have done. All of our documentation is publicly facing, release notes publicly facing, and the platform status pages are all publicly facing as well. We don't try to hide anything there. Very friendly on our commercial terms and extremely innovative in our thought leadership, our tech blogs. We participate out there in the kind of things that we believe strongly about and try to really lead the industry in areas that we think are very innovative. One of the things you want to think about as you start approaching this challenge is really trying to figure out where are you at in a digital maturity cycle. Forrester did a fantastic article that really talked about that. Forrester is an industry analyst, always coming up with thought leadership pieces as to how to help companies move from platform to platform or system to system, how to innovate in the next generation. They've been doing it for years, and one of the ways that they saw this is really, again, similar strategies to what we saw in the past, but we've got more flexible options now, right? Typically, we talk about launching brand microsites or specific country sites that allow you to go live on a new platform and then roll over your majority market or your majority site over onto the platform. But now we can start thinking about segmenting customer channels and flows. We've got customers that are saying all new customers go through a brand new buy flow and a brand new experience, and ultimately are completing their commerce transaction on commercetools while running side by side with the existing platform. There are many customers that are strangling the monolith, so taking pieces of the monolithic platform and simply turning them off and transitioning them to commercetools in a very systematic fashion that, again, de-risks the approach. And other customers then also looking at migrating page by page. So it could be a PDP page moving into a category landing page and then ultimately into a home page. But again, the whole idea is that you've got consumable blocks. You can take bits and pieces away from your existing platform to move over onto commercetools. As customers are starting projects, one of the other challenges, and we spend a fair bit of time in education in this, is that it's really when everybody sits down to the table and starts talking about solving problems or moving forward or new innovative ideas, we do a lot of education around how to not think about solving that as a monolith, right? A lot of our experience and our customers' experience come from these monolithic architectures. So the solutions to the problems sound very, very familiar. So as I said, we spend a lot of time with our customers trying to help them educate and understand that there's new ways to solve problems when you're using this style of architecture. And it's really eye-opening. And you can see when people, when the light bulb goes on and they get it, they're really excited about all of the flexibility that they have and the innovation that they can now bring into their own company. And some of the way that you see that is that retailers and brands are adopting this set of microservices and really thinking about it in distinct pieces. It's very similar to how we organize our platform teams. right? We put everybody in distinct functionality groups and allow them to innovate and define and release on their own schedule. They become experts in that particular area, and again, everybody's allowed to kind of run at their own pace and release when they need to, and kind of work together. And it really allows for a fast innovation when you're coming up with some of these new ideas. And obviously, it may sound a little bit daunting, but commercetools, as I said, we've come up with a lot of resources to help you. And some of the things, everything from white papers and ebooks, videos, webinars like this. We do podcasts on a monthly basis, but we've also written a nice article that a lot of our prospects and new customers are looking at for a good reference architecture, which is called our blueprint architecture for modern commerce. And it's got links there at the bottom of the screen. And what it does, it really lays out some of the foundational elements, or what a solution like this would need kind of sitting around it. How do you code? How do you put it through a CI/CD pipeline? Some of these aspects that sit around a microservices architecture really make you successful. And we'll continue to lead our customers down that road and help you as much as we can, again, in this style of forum. So now that we've set the foundation, now that you've got commercetools running as the core of your infrastructure, now you need to start thinking about what that brand experience is and how you present yourself to the customer. So I think it's a great time to shift over to James and let him introduce you further.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Really appreciate that introduction and the setup. So folks, what we're going to do now is just drop into a little bit of discussion as to how Amplience is really helping to complete the whole product, particularly when it comes to the business users in that e-commerce team. So before I dive into that, just a little bit more about what we do and how we do that. So at Amplience, we deliver a huge amount of content from our networks and systems, about 1.5 trillion content requests last year. The reason I mention that now is that that gives us access to a huge amount of data. And that data is very useful in trying to understand exactly how customers are using our platform and their platform to engage with customers. So across the 350 high volume retail brands that we have, which is about 1 billion visits a month worth of traffic, what you'll see is something like 65% of all of that traffic is mobile. And that's really been the huge transition over the last few years as we've gone from really a desktop oriented e-commerce experience into a mobile oriented e-commerce experience. And that has big implications for our customers. What we've been finding when we go and speak to particularly senior folks in marketing and the senior merchants in the business is that they identify consistently the same 4 key problems that they know they need to solve. The first of those problems, and a really important one right now, is page load performance. Now, this is a particular problem for mobile. And what we're seeing is what we're calling the mobile conversion catastrophe. That mobile conversion catastrophe comes about because poor page load speed results in very few finished sessions on mobile and a much lower aggregate conversion across those customer journeys than on desktop. And as all these sessions move from desktop into mobile, what that is causing is a dip in overall performance, and it really breaks the economics of the e-commerce channel. Secondly, voice of customer type technology, the 4C or Qualtrics type questionnaires that you may be asked to complete when going through the customer journey, consistently come back with feedback from the end consumer to say that navigation doesn't work. Site taxonomies are confusing, visitors are stranded, they can't find what they need. Of course, site information and content is a key issue all the time. Customers complain consistently about missing, misleading, incomplete, and not relevant content, which is a real problem when you're trying to take customers on a complex buying journey. And finally, quite often tasks and transactions are not doing what they need to do. They're too generic. They're built for a desktop experience. They don't enable customers to efficiently get into the basket and check out on mobile and other channels. So that insight action gap is a real problem for customers. And so one of the things we wanted to spend some time on today is really just help articulate how it is this move to microservices, API first, cloud and headless can really solve for these business issues, as well as the technical innovation problems that Matt identified earlier. But let's first pick on the performance problem and just articulate what we mean by that. This is a really useful view. You can see on the left-hand y-axis there, you can see the percentage of pages actually viewed in a customer journey. And on the right, on the x-axis, you can see the number of seconds it takes for that page to load. Now, most people have done a pretty good job of late of optimizing for, 1, 2, 3 second load. Most people are in a sort of 2 to 4 to 5 second page load speed. But what you can see is that the percentage of pages viewed really tails off quite dramatically and doesn't really get very high at all. So that indicates the mobile experience is particularly sensitive to page load performance. If you can get page load performance down to sub 1 second, then some dramatic things start to happen in terms of customer engagement. So getting performance right is an absolutely key challenge for mobile commerce and mobile storefront experiences. It's quite hard to do though, and it's really hard to do to get to under 1 second. And there's a very good reason for that. And it really comes down to the technologies that are integrated into the legacy e-commerce stack itself. So if you look at most of the e-commerce stacks, they have a range of different functional elements: search, product information, content media, campaign management. I put those in magenta because that's typically where Amplience comes in to drive a lot of the experience. But also you need account management, you need payments, you need orders, and hundreds of other things functionally in that experience. Most of those things though come together at the level of the web CMS template, which really drives things like the order of things on the page, the layout, the components that get used, the functional ways in which they support the customer journey, and ultimately, of course, navigation and taxonomy. That results in an HTML page. And here's a typical HTML page. This happens to be a customer of ours, Crate and Barrel. And you can see there it's got some functional elements, the basket and the search box, but it's also got navigation. It's got a guided nav on the left-hand side and various different content types within the page view itself. Now, one of the big problems with older web CMS technology is really it isn't designed for and optimized for delivery of content payloads into mobile. Everything comes in page size chunks. And even when cached, these are quite complex things to interpret and render. And they come with a lot of overhead in terms of baked in presentation as well as data. So what you tend to find, and if you go to Google, you can run an audit on your own site, is relatively poor performance scores, particularly for sites that use fairly standard web CMS-like technologies to drive that mobile experience. So responsive web is very much like this. So what that is driving, however, is this move from websites to apps. And what we've seen is tech teams in commerce and retail have really taken the bull by the horns here and started building things in React and Vue and all the other technologies that they have to start creating these experiences, which are very much more built in a way that's sympathetic to the mobile experience. So they feel more native, but you get all the benefits of open standards and web. And ideally then you can solve for a whole set of mobile specific problems, including performance and navigation and other things as well. But there's a big but here. What we tend to find when we go and talk to customers that are in this process of evaluating this move to a PWA on the front end, and as Matt said, all of these great microservices and API first options on the back end, is that there's a bit missing in the middle. Fundamentally, merchants, marketers, and content teams are confused by Headless. They really struggle to understand fundamentally where it is that their job has gone. And to understand why that is the case, you have to look at what's available in the monolith, in the current legacy e-commerce platform that they are losing. And fundamentally, they spend their lives, these e-commerce teams, in the business admin tools that are provided by those legacy platforms, and they might have a whole range of very rich tools for merchandising, for setting up and managing page templates, and for managing things like navigation and taxonomy. They're all built though using the underlying web CMS to aggregate the content together and deliver that experience and the management experience itself. And of course, what happens when you take the head off is that the admin console itself is removed at the same time, and it actually tends to be replaced by developers hard coding many of the aspects of the experience directly into the PWA. The problem with that, of course, is that that code is not accessible to the business user themselves, and in fact it becomes a really difficult development task to actually make changes, and that just really doesn't work in this much more agile, more responsive environment where you've gone for a new technology stack at the back end, you've gone for all these great headless tech, and you've done so at the expense of manageability, and so you've sort of just moved the problem around as opposed to fix the problem fundamentally. So by the way, I've written a lot about this. We'll send out some of these links a little bit later. It's something that we at Amplience really care about. All we really do is sort of retail e-commerce. We spend a lot of time talking to those teams, and we have a great deal of empathy for the challenges they face in making this transition. But what we'd really like to do is get them to the point where they can benefit from all the technical advantages of headless without losing some of the business admin functionalities. To do that requires a new stack, and it requires a new part of the stack, which is really important. And I'm not going to go into all the definitions of this, except to say the front end here, this bit in yellow and green, is really all about accelerated mobile delivery. We also work with the likes of MoveWeb and Mobify, who have great performance enhancing capabilities to really drive a super fast mobile app experience. Amplience then works with obviously commercetools around things like product management and the commerce APIs themselves. Search providers like Algolia. We ourselves provide all the content, rich media and DAM APIs for the new headless environment. But fundamentally, once your system integrator has put that together, you need this new layer, experience management and orchestration, which is all about managing things like navigation as a service, the taxonomy, providing very high performance query APIs, and the tools that merchants and marketers need to really curate the right experience and deliver that in the most highly optimized mobile way that they can. So what we've been doing is building all this out with the commercetools folks and integrating that into our platform. So we're going to spend a bit of time today with Emily going through that. What Emily's going to show you as part of the Amplience backend is some of the functionality that we've built really to manage the commerce storefront experience itself. So this is our whole tech platform. Bottom here, we've got Content Hub. That's a DAM, headless DAM. We have a whole set of dynamic media APIs for image and video content management and the creation of product media and lifestyle content at the top of funnel. But really where we're going to spend some time today is dynamic content, content planning and slots, and the delivery of all those pieces so that we can integrate lots of different content types into the storefront experience. So in a moment, I will ask Emily to pick up with that, and we shall drop into a demo. Okay, so over to you, Emily. I think you're going to drive, and I'm going to do some talk over here. So we're going to start having a quick look at Anya Finn itself, which is the in-house Amplience department store that we use for demo purposes. It's quite a rich storefront. If you have a little scroll around there, Emily, we can see what we've got: some carousels, some grids, all sorts of nice rich content, but some products I see in the experience there as well. So product data being sort of pulled into this as well. So, typical, very rich retail experience, nice inspirational content, and all sorts of ways in which we might engage the customer. We've got a nice flyout nav, so lots of different sections, and we've got some slightly different page templates, haven't we, Emily? So if we click into some of those, you can see we've got some that are a bit more inspirational with video, all that kind of thing. And actually, if we go up the top there, Emily, let's just turn on the slot view so we can just see when we go back to the home page there how we've organized the page. So one of the things we do in Amplience is create all the different slots in the site experience, and then we can manage each one of these areas individually. So not even just at page level, but we can drop content into those slots and manage that content in time, and we'll show that as well. So fantastic. Let's drop back, Emily, into our platform. So here we are in what we call dynamic content. Dynamic content is our headless CMS. And what Emily's done is she has dropped into the dashboard itself. Now, normally we'd spend a bit of time with customers showing them how all the workflow functionality works, how content is assigned to them, and how it's integrated into the content schedule and calendar and flows throughout the experience. But really what we're going to focus on today is the e-commerce storefront integrations and the ways in which we can manage that experience itself. So why don't we go from there and have a quick look at the planner. So one of the other tools we do is really support the whole content calendar. So we're going to come back into this in a minute and show you how we can manage content across lots of different parts of the experience itself. And then let's go into production there. And here we are in really the content library itself. So I think to get things going, Emily, why don't you drop into something reasonably simple like a banner and make some changes there. So what Emily's doing here, just opening up a simple banner. You can see on the right hand side, we get nice visualization of that. We could see that in some slightly different context, couldn't we, Emily? Let's go and have a look at mobile, for example. Here we go. We can see how that renders there. We could also go and look at it in the app, couldn't we? So we've got a little app emulator, and we've got a whole set of technologies and Amplience that really make it very simple to visualize and preview content in lots of different contexts, including in an app where we can load the app emulator itself and round trip the content through that, so we can actually see exactly how our content will look on any device. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Emily. Let's drop back into your desktop view. Maybe I'll hand over to you. You can make some changes.
Sure, thank you, James. So let's just maybe change the background image for this banner.
Yeah, good idea.
And then I could, when I save, so every time the user makes changes and save it, you can kind of see the preview instantly on the right-hand side. Yeah,
and we can make some changes to text and actually, depending on how we've set up the content model, Emily, we can also change, you know, some elements that are sort of user experiencey, you know, the positioning of things as well, can't we?
That's right. So if I've just changed the header title, so now we're working from home, and let's maybe move the text block to the left side of the.
There we go. Look at that. So that fits better with that sort of image at that particular point in time. So I think we're quite happy with our banner now. So that's good stuff. Why don't we pop out of that then and have a quick look at something a little bit more complex. But before we go build a page, let's look at maybe some of the sort of integrations with commercetools. So why don't we drop into that product grid there? Yeah. So this is a functional component. We're actually making a call out to an Algolia index, which is indexed a bunch of products that have come out of the commercetools catalog itself. So I think we've got some very simple controls here. As it's a demo, haven't we, Emily? So you're going to check.
So you can change the category, and then it will pull back the. You know, we've set the limit to 10, so it will pull back 10 products from the women's category, in opposed to the men's.
Yeah, so pretty straightforward. We could obviously have much richer controls in terms of showing different types of content over there. We could change the number of products, all those sorts of things. There we go, just to prove all these pieces are wired up as they are. So that's great. So I think we've configured our grid. Looks good. Let's go and create a slightly different sort of merchandising view, something like a curated slider or something like that, where we've got some very specific products we want to drop into that. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, so here at the moment we've selected hand selected 6 products from the catalog, from the product catalog. So what I can do is I can actually search the commercetools catalog for all the other products and add them to this carousel.
Oh, okay.
So I've just added that back, and then let's just do another belt. So if I save that now, as I scroll across that, you can see I've added two other products.
There we go.
And I can change the order by just dragging them up to the top, maybe. You can see here that comes.
There we go, yeah. So very simple, really easy, intuitive tools to actually go and create those various different components. So why don't we now go and put that all together and create a whole experience as a landing page?
Sure. So let's just go into a landing page. Right now it's empty because we're just creating it. So, okay. So we're going to first of all add a header with the sort of the mega menu, the navigation.
Yeah. There we are.
Then let's go and add maybe a carousel of banners to make it interesting.
Yeah, something nice and rich and promotional, top of the fold.
Okay, let's do this with the hero on there. And let's then add the two grids that we've just looked at. So first of all, the grid where it's based on category selection of products.
Yeah.
This one, and then the more sort of manually hand curated sort of product carousel list.
Fabulous. Looking forward to seeing what this is going to look like in the end. So let's get
all that. So we've got 4 different content items in there. So you can see on the right hand side we've got the header with the mega menu.
Yeah.
Then we have our carousel.
Oh, yeah.
And then we basically then have the women's category of products.
Yeah.
And then the curated product carousel. All the products are from the commercetools product catalogs.
Yeah. So that's really straightforward. I think that just shows how easy it is in Amplience to pull all these things together. So one of the other challenges, obviously, for our customers is how do they actually manage content in time, Emily? So what features do we have to enable that?
Yeah. So let's flip over to the planning side where customers can actually schedule content into the different slots that we talked about earlier on to basically associate content and then schedule them to go live on the site. Yeah.
So I think what we've got there are, we call them editions, but they're, think of them as campaigns or content drops in this particular context. So looks like what you've set up here is a whole range of sort of flows of content across various parts of that Amplience site in time, Emily. So
that's right. Yeah. So right now the lines in green means what is actually live.
Yeah.
And we've got basically a huge whole site edition with lots of different content in all the various different slots that we've set up for the site. And then there are additional editions or content drops that are scheduled for later on in March, as well as in April, where we have promotions.
Yeah, fantastic. So one of the things that retailers really struggle with is just trying to understand how the site experience evolves over time. And quite often I go into these retail teams, Emily, and I find that the whole site printed out across the wall and people peering intently at various different printouts that are probably out of date, trying to work out, what happens at, 4 o'clock on Black Friday on the homepage or something like that. I think what we can do here, though, is something a bit more sophisticated.
Yes. So not only can they schedule this ahead of time, but they can actually do a complete site preview directly from the calendar here. Yeah. So if I actually click on today, this is what the site actually looks now. So you can see this is the home page and other kind of parts of the site. But if I was to look at my site on the 27th, so this is the content that we have actually scheduled to go live.
There we go.
From the 27th. So that's the hero in there, and there's other bits and pieces that are also that's just heroes scheduled for that. And then there are other things that we are actually still drafting and not ready to be scheduled yet. So as you can see, as you move across time as a merchant, you can actually see what you've scheduled to go live much more ahead of time.
Yeah, fantastic. So that kind of puts you right back in control of the content calendar. Let's just drop back into the content library in production for a second and just go and look at where we've set up those slots. So obviously we're moving content in and out of the library into slots, and those slots are set up in their own content repository here. And we can have all sorts of slots. Those can be modeled across all your different devices, channels, and endpoints for content itself. Can we also, Emily, have a look at that mega menu? Because obviously this is defining the structure of the experience. So I'm intrigued to see how we're doing that.
Yes. So obviously it's a menu. So we've designed a tree-like user interface so that it's easier for the merchant to come in here and look at how to actually edit and change if they needed to the menu. So right now you can see, we've got home, lookbook, women's, etc. across there. And then within a submenu, some of them will have a promote content slot, so we can actually promote particular promotions directly from the mega menu.
So we can use the menu as a as a place for content as much as any other part of the experience, which is great. But we can also then define the structure of that experience, can't we? So we can move some of those things around.
That's right. Yeah, I can move this further down here if I wanted to.
Yeah. So save that. Yeah.
You can save that.
Yeah. There we go. We've just changed the menu around. So fantastic. So using different types of UI control, we can also manage things like the menu itself. Right. So running a little shorter time, let's dive into development and have a quick look at what's in there, particularly with regard to webhooks, because one of the things that Amplience is very good at, being all event driven, is being able to fire off events into other third-party software. So one of the things we do is a lot of work with the Algolia folks, and we've built a very nice integration into that. So let's have a quick look at that webhook. This is a little bit technical. Generally, once these are set up, you don't have to worry about them, but essentially all we're doing here is deciding which content we're going to index as that content is created. I think I've got that right, haven't I, Emily?
Yes, that's right. So whenever a piece of blog content item is created or updated, we would update the index. So this is actually driving our blog page on our site.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's just go back then and have a look at how we tag up content in the content library so that it can flow through into that index and be delivered into the right parts of the experience. So I think what we can do is pick all the blogs.
Yeah.
Here we go. So let's go and have a look at those. Let's go and have a look at the blog, and you can see up there, yeah, there we go. So we've categorized this blog by different categories. So this is going to be categorized as women, but if you look at that drop down, I think what we can do is just open that up. We could also pick any one of those categories. So we can build a blog that's multi-category and have a nice sort of slice and dice interface into that. We can pick different authors from our list, and we could integrate all of those controls actually to other APIs. So we wouldn't have to manually update those. We could be pulling those from somewhere else. So great. Now that we've got our blog set up like that, let's just go and see what sort of experience we can create, Emily. Give that a second to load. So here we are. So now we're in our nice blog section. You can see there's a guide navigation on the left. So why don't we slice and dice that a little bit?
Sure.
There we go. We've only got one blog for us men, but maybe a few more beauty blogs. There we go. So we can sort of slice and dice that experience and really just drill into the things that interest us the most. Fantastic. So I think that'll do for us for this webinar, Emily. Thank you very much indeed. That's really helpful. I think we've covered quite a lot of ground very quickly there. So hopefully you've been able to keep up, folks. Do let us know if we can help you understand this in a bit more detail or dive into any of those pieces. I'm sure there's some Q&A coming up. So why don't we, at this point, drop back in to the main presentation and finish this off.
Yeah, we do have some questions coming in. I just want to say thank you to you, James, and Matt, and Emily for giving us your time and experience today. I know I was in charge of a website launch as a business owner a number of years back now, and I'm seeing this new way that Amplience has built content management, and boy, could have I used that then. Would have been much less of a headache.
Absolutely.
I did want to reiterate, though, as you saw from the demo, that Amplience and commercetools have been working together for quite some time. We actually did a Headless Summit last October, which was amazing. And, we can really help you get started extremely quickly. We have the integration as Emily demoed. On the commercetools side, we do have a trial kind of program. So you can go to our website, commercetools.com, and sign up for a trial and start working on a project in just a few hours. So I know that I'm supposed to say something about these AirPods. So Amplience is giving away AirPods. We are going to announce the winner in our follow-up email. That's going to come in probably 24 hours with a copy of this recording. And we'll announce the winner. Let's look at a couple of questions. I think we have time for many of these. Okay. So the first one is, I think this is going to be Matt, but it's probably also James as well. Are your APIs REST or based on GraphQL? Question from Nolan.
So
Matt,
there you go.
Yep, from the commercetools perspective, the entire platform is REST APIs, and GraphQL is a query language that sits on top of that and ultimately calls a set of REST APIs to optimize that call into the platform and really give you a quicker response and much more tailored to what you're trying to do for a particular page.
Similarly, Amplience is all REST. We have really focused on performance, in particular on those APIs. So particularly the content delivery side of things is sub 35 milliseconds time to first byte, because when you do those kind of complex GraphQL queries, they can spawn a whole number of different API requests, and it's really important, as commercetools do and as we do, that you focus on super performant APIs to ensure that when you aggregate that data and you bring that back into the experience, it's retrieved as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you. Here's another question I think is really good, and if we could just kind of clarify. The question is, can you elaborate on how your platform integrates with other IT elements? So ERP, CRM, marketing tools. How's that work, guys? Matt, you want to take that one first?
Yes. Yeah, so from a commercetools perspective, again, all of the data coming into the platform and all the data leaving the platform is through the REST APIs. The other piece that we have is that anytime that we create an action in the platform, we do publish an event. And an event is a way for you to get a signal that something happened in the platform and ultimately grab that piece of data. So everything from customer created a cart, customer created an order, product was updated. Again, all of these actions in the platform allow go out an event that you can subscribe to, and then create actions to then take further action on that, whether it's download the order from the system or update product catalog with certain information. So it does commonly take, there's commonly in our customer base, there's a set of tools that already exist, whether it's an ESB or ETL style tools that will interact with all the legacy enterprise systems all the way up to the core commercetools system. So that's kind of a back-end thought process. James, do you want to talk a little bit about how you play in the world of a lot of the common marketing elements?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matt. I think in a very similar way, we're completely event-based. So in fact, when you talk about the way that you do things, and I've said it in lots of these discussions recently, Matt, you guys are absolutely the mirror image of us, or vice versa, because how we've architected and thought about the platforms, the way in which we go about solving these problems is very, very similar. Obviously, you have a slightly different set of problems to solve in your domain than we do, but we still have to integrate content and data from third parties, yourselves included, but also often from lots of different other systems. And we do that through a number of different sources. We can effectively build something called a UI extension. A UI extension allows us to punch out to an API and bring that data, or at least the reference to that data, back into our content graph and build a very sophisticated graph, which is really how we integrate with your product catalog. We don't store the product data in Amplience, we store the reference to that product data, but we enable you to browse the catalog as though it were native content within the platform itself. And that's very much our approach to all sorts of different types of content. We can also, though, integrate with other types of marketing workflow and other platforms and fire all sorts of events off. So if you want to build a really sophisticated workflow that's maybe Jira at the top of that, driving some kind of Kanban process, we can integrate all of our events back up into Jira, and we can manage the flow of content that way, or the other way around. So either way, it's a complex ecosystem we're in, and I think it requires this sort of approach to build these really rich composite experiences.
Excellent, thank you. So we're actually at the top of the hour, and we do have several more questions coming in. We can certainly respond to these questions directly to the askers after the webinar, add them to our Q&A deck. So I think with that, I will let people go, unless James and Matt, you want to stay on for a little bit and answer a few more questions. It's up to you, I think.
I'm totally fine to stay on for a few minutes, but
right.
I appreciate some folks might need to leave, but that's okay. We can also follow up on email as well, can't we?
Yeah, good. All right, well, let me throw a couple more questions out there, and I think at 11, at the 5 minutes past, we'll go ahead and
Sure.
and cut it off. So okay, so I have a question about this is a technical question. Does the customer have to bring their own API gateway layer to the party to bring together commercetools and Amplience, as well as other third parties?
You can start with that one, Matt. I'll follow from you.
Sure. No, we have several examples in several reference architectures that we cite. There is no requirement for an API gateway as part of the solution. What we find is that as we start digging into the use cases and really understanding how a customer wants to manage the overall solution and what some of the use cases are, then there may be a recommendation that you would have a higher amount of flexibility or a faster speed to market, or you have more capabilities in the solution overall, and then it might be a recommended approach, but it's not required.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the great moments in my career when I first saw John, our CTO, start wiring together some microservices from you guys and Algolia and a couple of other pure sort of microservices providers. The speed at which you can do that and generate a really sophisticated environment that you can start doing real work with quite quickly is quite extraordinary. And I think, although you can, yes, obviously put an API gateway in, particularly to get to the legacy stuff that you might need to, it's really not required.
Excellent. Well, I know Matt has to drop, so thank you, Matt. I'm going to throw one more question at you, James, and then we're going to close the day, and we'll answer the rest of the questions
All right.
another way. This is about personalization. So does Amplience offer personalization, personalized content?
It's a good question, whoever that was. We are not ourselves the personalization API. But in the new world, what you need is two things. One is you need a content graph with enough richness and dimensionality to provide all of the different content variants you need to power that experience, tagged and provided as data such that you can apply machine learning and personalization type algorithms to that data and automate the experience. So typically for our customers, the number one problem that they have is they just can't generate enough content. So we drive up to 3 to 5x productivity improvement from a content production perspective, you can reinvest that productivity in creating a lot more content that's a lot richer and a lot more targeted. And we can tag that content up in all sorts of different ways that enable you then to drive that experience from tools like, I'm going to pick some names, Optimizely, Monetate, Qubit, Rich Relevance, any of those folks that have the sort of algorithm that sits there and looks at the customer segment. They've either derived it, it's come from the CRM, and they can make the decision around what content to show. But the two things work really well together.
And I think that's the beauty of a platform like this, right? Where you can completely build your best of breed solution, and you can choose these different solutions based on, really what you're looking for and the experience you want to build. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's the critical element in all of this, is you're not limited anymore by what came out of the box and stuck with some difficult, complex integration to get better capability. You can really match, swap out the parts. You can mix and match to get exactly what you want, and that is a huge benefit for our customers and your customers in ways in which they can manage the experience going forward.
Precisely. Well, it is 5 past the hour. We've gone a little bit over time. Thank you, everyone who stuck with us here. And if we didn't get to your question, I know there's a few out there. We will respond to those either directly through an email or some other way. Reach out to you, probably just through email initially. Thank you to James, to Amplience for sponsoring, for the AirPods giveaway, whoever is the lucky winner of that.
Yes, lucky people.
And, exactly. So thank you all. This is the end of the webinar. Really appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.